Hi everyone, it's Kino here. This class is all about the Ashtanga Yoga opening and closing prayer. I remember when I went to my first Ashtanga Yoga class, I was overwhelmed with the beauty of this ancient Sanskrit prayer. But I was also kind of overwhelmed with the ability to say it back, which means I had no idea what they were saying. However, just like music changes the vibration, I felt something open, like my mind became more peaceful and my body became more grounded. So today we're going to go over the pronunciation of the Ashtanga Yoga opening prayer. We'll also go over what it means so that you'll know exactly what you're saying. The Ashtanga Yoga opening prayer is sometimes called the opening chant, and it's not necessarily wrong to say it like that, but it is more of a prayer in the lexicon of Patanjali. Patanjali is the sage who authored the Yoga Sutras, written more than 2,000 years ago. By saying the opening prayer in the Ashtanga Yoga method, it is an act of humility and reverence on the part of the student. So in other words, when you begin your practice with this opening prayer, you're claiming the spiritual space of your whole yoga journey. The opening prayer begins with the sound Om, the most holy and sacred vibration, the divine sound, the sound which is the only true name of God. By claiming the space of the spiritual journey with the resonant vibration of Om, you make a clear demarcation between the material life that you live outside of your yoga practice into the spiritual journey within. Then you begin the opening prayer, which is positioning Patanjali as a jungle doctor. Now you might think, I don't really live in a jungle. I don't have much use for a jungle physician. But don't worry, the opening prayer is like a metaphor. The real jungle is in your mind. You cross in through an interweaving network of old thoughts, behavioral patterns, and other obstacles and difficulties. Patanjali, representing the whole yoga path, is your way out. Carving a path into the spiritual journey, removing the poison of material existence, realigning your mind into the spirit. Patanjali is presented with three important symbols. Patanjali holds a conch, which is a tropical shell that used to wash up on the shores of the Florida Keys. You can still find them sometimes in the Bahamas. This beautiful conch shell is a representation of the infinite. If you've ever held that conch shell up to your ear, you'll hear a sound, a resonant sound of the ocean. The conch shell is a symbol of the willingness of God to speak to humanity and the corollary willingness of humanity to listen. Patanjali also holds a sword. The sword is the ability to cut through illusion so you can finally see reality clearly. The sword is also a symbol of victory and a symbol of dharma, the idea that goodness eventually wins out over evil, no matter how long the journey or the battle may take. The final symbol is a discus. The discus is associated with the Sudarshan chakra, which is the wheel of time, the wheel of order, the wheel of rhythm, the notion that everything falls into its place, or the basic idea that everything is exactly as it should be. Finally, we bow down to Patanjali, not as an idol, but as faith and hope that we can continue the practice of yoga and that we can find peace through this sacred practice. Patanjali is presented as having Sahasra Chakra, which is the crown chakra fully awakened. The symbol of the crown chakra is the lotus, the 1,000-petaled white lotus. The lotus flower itself is symbolic of the awakening of the inner light. As though the lotus, a flower that rises up from the muddiest waters, represents you on the spiritual journey, rising up from below, spreading out the flowers of peace in every element of your life. The closing prayer of the Ashtanga Yoga method is a prayer of dedication, so that instead of keeping that peace within, you share it with the world. The basic outline of the closing prayer is to pray for peace in your country, to pray for peace in your family, to pray for a peaceful yogic hearts in all of the leaders of the world. Imagine if all of our world leaders were practicing yoga and committing themselves to the daily discipline of living and acting out the moral and ethical commitments of the yoga lifestyle. Our world would be a peaceful place, and our world would be changed so much more than we can ever imagine. Let this plant the seed that our world leaders will one day align themselves with the inspirational heart of the spiritual practice. With that in mind, we're ready to begin. So come to a comfortable seated position, and we'll start the journey into the opening prayer. We're going to begin with the resonant sound Om. So close your eyes, bring your hands together, and we'll have 3 Om sounds to bring your mind into this moment. Inhale. Keep your eyes closed for a moment. Tune in to the vibration. And then let your hands gently drop down, and we'll begin the opening prayer. Follow along with the writing that you'll see right here below, and go step by step. And just repeat after me. No stress. We'll do it all together at the end, but we'll build it up. Just repeat after me. One day, Guru Nam Charanara. Good, let's try that whole line all together. One day Guru Nam Charanara. Okay, move on to the next line. Sandarshita Swatma Sukhavabodhe. Sandarshita Swatma Sukhavabodhe. All right, we'll move on to the next line. Nishreyase Jangalikayamane. Nishreyase Jangalikayamane. Samsara Hala Hala Moha Shantye. Samsara Hala Hala Moha Shantye. Abahu Purushakaram. Abahu Purushakaram. Shankachakrasi Dharinam. Shankachakrasi Dharinam. Sahasra Shirasam Shwetam. Sahasra Shirasam Shwetam. Pranamami Patanjalim. Pranamami Patanjalim. All right, let's try it all together. Hands in prayer, and you can read along if you need to, but if you know it by heart, we'll just do the prayer together. Vande Guru Nam Charanara Vinde. Sandarshita Swatma Sukhavabodhe. Nishreyase Jangalikayamane. Samsara Hala Hala Moha Shantye. Abahu Purushakaram. Shankachakrasi Dharinam. Sahasra Shirasam Shwetam. Pranamami Patanjalim. Take a moment and just tune in. And gently let your hands drop down. So you want to say the opening prayer to begin every practice. We traditionally say the opening prayer in Samastitihi, the equal standing pose, which is the posture that initiates every practice. And then we have the closing prayer, which remembers that chant or prayer for peace. We'll go through it in the same way, beginning this time only with one Om sound, and again breaking it down word by word, line by line, and then the whole thing all together. It's like learning a new language. Sanskrit is really the language of yoga. So as you tune into the vibration, really your soul starts to move in the musicality of the inner practice. Bring your hands together and inhale. Ooh. drop down. And again, you can follow along word by word. All right, here we go. Repeat after me. Swasti Prajabhyaha. Swasti Prajabhyaha. Paripalayantam. Paripalayantam. Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyaha Go Brahmanebhyaha Shubhamastu nityam Shubhamastu nityam Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino bhavantu Sukhino bhavantu. And this one we end with Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi, which we'll do all together at the end. So I think we're ready for the closing prayer, which is a little easier to pronounce than the opening one. It's a little shorter too. So let's bring your hands together. Swasti Prajabhyaha Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyaha Shubhamastu nityam Lokaha Samastaha Sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much for putting in the work for the opening and closing prayer. Remember to say the closing prayer at the end of your practice. It's there in all of the practice videos. Memorize it, let it fill your heart, and let it bring you into the spiritual journey. Namaste.